The patience of giants. The observation deck of the Arcturus station offered the most breathtaking view of Earth that Commander Elena Reyes had ever seen. From orbit, the planet was a beautiful marble of blue and green, white clouds swirling in its atmosphere like cream and coffee. The year 2189 had brought humanity unprecedented peace and prosperity, their clean fusion technology having ended energy scarcity nearly 60 years prior. "Admiring the view again, Commander?" asked Dr. Malik Sharma, the station's chief scientist, as he joined her at the viewport. "Every chance I get," Elena replied, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of Earth. "Sometimes I think about our ancestors, how they nearly destroyed it all. We came so close to extinction." Malik nodded thoughtfully. The Great Reconciliation changed everything. Once nations stopped fighting over resources and started working together, we accomplished more in a century than in all of human history. Their contemplation was interrupted by a station-wide alert. Red lights pulsed along the ceiling as Elena's comm unit buzzed urgently. "Commander Reyes, report to command immediately," came the voice of Admiral Zhang. 15 minutes later, Elena stood with Earth's Joint Defense Council, watching a holographic projection of massive objects decelerating at the edge of the solar system. 7 vessels, each larger than anything humanity had ever constructed, approaching in perfect formation. "First contact," whispered Admiral Zhang, the oldest person in the room at 78, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the hologram. "After all our searching, they found us first." The aliens called themselves the Vexari Collective. Their transmission came 3 hours later, crystal clear and in perfect English, having evidently intercepted and decoded Earth's broadcasts long before making themselves known. "People of Earth," began the transmission, showing a humanoid figure with iridescent silver skin and eyes that seemed to shift between purple and blue. "I am Sovereign Executor Thalkren of the Vexari Collective. We have observed your civilization with great interest and believe the time has come for formal relations between our peoples." The following weeks were filled with cautious diplomatic exchanges. The Vexari presented themselves as benefactors, offering technological marvels and knowledge of the galaxy. They spoke of a galactic community of intelligent species, with the Vexari naturally positioned at its apex. Elena, appointed as Earth's security liaison to the Vexari delegation, noticed the subtle shift in their demeanor as meetings progressed. What began as offers gradually transformed into expectations, then demands thinly disguised as suggestions. "The Vexari Collective has identified 17 raw materials abundant on your planet that would benefit mutual development," announced Thalkren during the 5th diplomatic session. "We will require extraction rights immediately." Admiral Zhang's response was measured. "We appreciate your interest, Sovereign Executor, but Earth's resources are carefully managed to maintain ecological balance. Perhaps we could discuss more sustainable arrangements." The Vexari delegation exchanged glances. "Perhaps you misunderstand," Thalkren replied, his tone cooling. "The collective does not negotiate resource allocations. We determine optimal distribution for all aligned civilizations." Later that night, in a secure underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Earth's Defense Council convened an emergency session. "They're not here for friendship," Elena stated bluntly. "Every interaction follows the same pattern, initial respect followed by increasing demands." Admiral Zhang nodded. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Their ships alone could likely devastate our defenses." "So we capitulate?" asked General Okafor, her voice sharp with indignation. "No," replied Zhang calmly. "We buy time." And so began Earth's greatest deception. Outwardly, humanity presented itself as awed by Vexari power and grateful for their attention. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, Earth prepared. Defense satellites disguised as communication relays were positioned throughout the solar system. Quantum encrypted communications were established between military bases. Research into Vexari technology accelerated as scientists analyzed every scrap of data they could gather. 3 months into the diplomatic mission, Alina made a discovery that confirmed their worst fears. While escorting a junior Vexari delegate through a cultural exchange center, she noticed him tampering with a terminal. Later analysis revealed a sophisticated data mining algorithm searching Earth's networks for mineral deposit locations, defense capabilities, and population centers. Further investigation by Malik's team uncovered the truth. The Vexari weren't interested in alliance. They were resource harvesters who had depleted dozens of worlds across the galaxy, leaving devastated ecosystems and subjugated populations in their wake. They're not just after our resources, Malik explained, showing Alina and the Admiral holographic evidence from decoded Vexari communications. They're after everything: our water, our biosphere, even our cultural artifacts. Earth is just another conquest to them. As tensions escalated, fate delivered an unexpected opportunity. A small Earth vessel on routine patrol at the outer reaches of the solar system detected a damaged ship of unknown origin attempting to hide within Saturn's rings. Instead of reporting it to the Vexari as protocol now dictated, Captain Sedo made a different choice. The ship contained refugees, members of the Airali species fleeing Vexari occupation of their homeworld. Captain Sedo brought them secretly to Earth, where they provided invaluable intelligence about Vexari tactics and weaknesses. The collective has conquered 17 civilizations in the last century, explained Kirmalax, an Airali scientist. They follow the same pattern: diplomatic overtures, resource demands, then complete subjugation when resistance is deemed inefficient. How do they maintain control over so many worlds? Alina asked. Fear, replied Kirmalax, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. And the belief that resistance is impossible. The Vexari's technological advantage is significant, but not as overwhelming as they want others to believe. Their greatest weapon is intimidation. Over the following weeks, Earth established secret communication with other subjugated species through the Airali network. A coalition began to form in the shadows, united by a common desire for freedom. 6 months after first contact, the Vexari's patience ran out. Sovereign Executor Thel Kren delivered his ultimatum from orbit, surrounded by a fleet that had grown to 23 massive warships. Humanity has tested our benevolence long enough, he declared, his image broadcast globally. Earth will submit to Vexari authority and begin immediate resource extraction or face correction. From the United Earth Council chamber in Geneva, President Amara Okafor delivered humanity's response, her voice calm and her expression properly deferential. The people of Earth recognize the power and wisdom of the Vexari collective, she stated. We request 48 hours to prepare our world for your guidance. Thalkren's expression registered satisfaction. Another world submitting without costly conflict. Your request is granted. Prepare your leadership for integration and your resource centers for our arrival. As the transmission ended, President Okafor's demeanor changed completely. She turned to Admiral Zhang and Commander Reyes. Is everything ready? Yes, Madam President. Alina confirmed. All systems are in position, and our allies are standing by. Then, said President Okafor with quiet determination, it's time to show the Vexari what humans are truly capable of when pushed too far. When silence breaks, dawn broke over the Himalayan mountains as the Vexari delegation descended toward the designated surrender site. Their shuttle, sleek and imposing, was escorted by a dozen fighter craft whose design suggested they had never needed to prioritize agility or stealth. Why would they, when no opponent had challenged them in centuries? 6 miles below, in a command center buried deep beneath the ancient mountains, Commander Elena Reyes and Admiral Zhang watched the approaching vessels on quantum-linked displays. All defensive systems are operational, reported General Okafor through the secure channel. Waiting for your command. Elena took a deep breath, thinking of all the clandestine preparation, the sleepless nights, the countless simulations they had run. I still can't believe we managed to keep it all hidden from them. Admiral Zhang's weathered face showed the ghost of a smile. Never underestimate humanity's capacity for deception when survival is at stake. The Vexeri delegation landed with characteristic pomp. Sovereign Executor Thalkren emerged from his shuttle flanked by guards in ceremonial armor, clearly expecting a formal surrender from a cowed planet. What he found instead was President Okafor standing alone on the landing pad. No honor guard, no officials, just a single human leader. "Where are your delegates?" Thalkren demanded. "Where is the submission ceremony we instructed you to prepare?" President Okafor's voice carried across the landing pad with unexpected strength. "There will be no submission today, Sovereign Executor." Thalkren's face contorted with fury. "You dare defy the collective. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your technology is centuries behind ours." "About that," President Okafor replied calmly, activating her neural implant with a thought. "We may have misrepresented ourselves a bit." Above the planet, the Vexeri fleet suddenly found itself surrounded as thousands of objects previously dismissed as debris or defunct satellites activated simultaneously. Earth's true defense grid, hidden in plain sight, powered up with a synchronized pulse that momentarily outshone the sun. In the command center, Alina gave the order. "Initiate Phase 1. The quantum defense network, designed using principles gleaned from studying Vexeri technology, combined with uniquely human innovations, generated a localized field that disabled the Vexeri ship's primary weapon systems and communication arrays. It wasn't permanent. Humanity couldn't match Vexeri power generation, but it didn't need to be." On the landing pad, Thalkren's personal communicator went silent. His guards' weapons flickered and died. "What is this?" he hissed. "This," said President Okafor, "is humanity showing you the courtesy of a fair warning, something you've never given to your victims." At that moment, the sky above them filled with light as Earth's message was broadcast using the Vexeri's own communication network, hijacked by ingenious Earth hackers working with aerially communication experts. Every ship, every planet, every outpost within the Vexeri sphere of influence received the same transmission. The message showed documented evidence of Vexeri atrocities across 17 worlds, compiled by the Secret Alliance. It revealed the truth of their benevolent empire, ecological devastation, cultural genocide, and ruthless exploitation. Most importantly, it showed proof that the Vexeri could be resisted, that their technological advantage was not insurmountable. For too long, the peoples of this galaxy have suffered under Vexeri oppression. President Okafor's voice declared across thousands of worlds. "Earth refuses to be your next victim. We stand united with all who would choose freedom over subjugation." Thalkren's face had drained of color. "You have no idea what you've done." "Actually," said President Okafor, "we know exactly what we've done. We've given hope to the hopeless." In orbit, the first battle of what would later be called the Liberation War began. Earth vessels, smaller but infinitely more maneuverable than their Vexeri counterparts, executed combat doctrines that had been secretly developed and refined for months. They didn't need to destroy the massive Vexeri ships, only disable key systems and demonstrate that the supposedly invincible armada could bleed. The Vexeri, accustomed to immediate submission or token resistance quickly crushed, found themselves facing an enemy that had studied them extensively while deliberately presenting a false image of technological inferiority. Earth forces targeted precisely the weaknesses identified by their allies, employing strategies the Vexeri had never encountered. In the command center, Alina watched as the tactical display showed green indicators representing Earth and allied vessels executing their missions with precision. "Second wave, engage as planned," she ordered. Across the solar system, hidden weapon platforms activated, launching specialized EMP missiles that further disrupted Vexeri systems. Meanwhile, quantum-encrypted signals raced across subspace to pre-positioned allies. The response came swift and sure. Uprisings on 7 subjugated worlds, coordinated to strike key Vexeri control centers. 3 hours into the conflict, Admiral Zhang received a priority communication. Commander, the Air Relief Fleet has engaged Vexari forces in the Proxima system. The Thrani have risen up on their homeworld. The Coalition is responding exactly as hoped. On the landing pad, surrounded by powerless guards, Sovereign Executor Thalkren watched in disbelief as reports of coordinated rebellion filtered through his partially functioning communications. "How?" he demanded, genuine confusion in his voice. "You were nothing. Primitive. Disorganized. That's what we wanted you to think," President Okafor explained, "while you saw what you expected to see, an intimidated civilization awed by your power. We were learning your weaknesses, making allies, and preparing." She stepped closer. "You never bothered to truly understand humans, did you? Throughout our history, we faced extinction multiple times. We'd fought ourselves to the brink of annihilation, but we learned from those near-death experiences." A holographic display activated around them, showing Earth's cities, its restored wilderness, its orbital habitats. "We achieved peace not because we're weak, but because we recognized war's futility amongst ourselves. We chose cooperation over conflict, sustainability over exploitation. That wasn't surrender, it was wisdom." The battle in orbit reached its climax as the Vexari flagship, its propulsion and weapons disabled, drifted powerless. Earth forces hadn't destroyed a single Vexari vessel, another calculated choice to demonstrate restraint and precision rather than brutality. "We could have destroyed your fleet." Admiral Zhang's voice came through President Okafor's comm unit, loud enough for Thalkren to hear. "But unlike the Vexari, we don't eliminate those we could instead teach." 24 hours after the conflict began, representatives from 12 formerly subjugated species arrived at Earth for the first summit of what would become the Galactic Coalition for Sovereignty. The Vexari, their myth of invincibility shattered, faced something they had never anticipated: a unified resistance led by a species they had gravely underestimated. In the newly established coalition headquarters, converted from what was meant to be the site of Earth's surrender, Elena found Admiral Zhang looking out at the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. "Do you think they'll retaliate?" she asked, joining him at the viewport. "Eventually," he replied, "but not before we're ready. And not before their own people begin questioning the lies they've been told for generations." "Was it worth the risk?" Elena mused. "We gambled everything." Admiral Zhang turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "Throughout human history, the greatest heroes weren't those who sought conflict, but those who stood firmly against tyranny when it arrived at their doorstep." He gestured to the gathering of diverse species in the chamber below. "Look at what we've already achieved. Not conquest, but connection." As night fell over the Himalayas, Earth's message continued to spread across the galaxy. A declaration that patience should never be mistaken for weakness, that civility should never be confused with submission. After centuries of unchallenged dominance, the Vexari Collective was learning a lesson that humanity had mastered through its own turbulent history. The most dangerous opponents are not those who rush to violence, but those who exhaust every peaceful alternative before they finally say enough. And when they do, the galaxy trembles.